Hello everybody and welcome to another PlayStation 30th Anniversary Reaction Specials video here. So as we've already reacted to all the we had a chance to look back at some of the trailers that PlayStation did to help launch their respective console releases, being from the PlayStation 1 all the way to the PS4, and then we've also all the way to the PS5 actually, as we've seen the launch trailers for the PS5 from 2020. As you can tell, the way that they've marketed PlayStation has changed over the years, and obviously the PS5 is they're really pushing the boundaries of what it means to play games and take things to a whole new level. But in this section, we're going to have a chance to look back at basically a game that I consider that I defined as like the game that I enjoyed the most on the at least one of the games I've enjoyed the most from the PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, PS3 and PS4 eras of gameplay, obviously. So we're going to start with PlayStation 1, and the game franchise I picked for PlayStation 1, and in fact I might do two actually, because because there were two franchises I enjoyed, and they are Crash Bandicoot and Spyro the Dragon. But obviously in this one we're going to look at Crash Bandicoot, because Crash Bandicoot basically began his journey as a video game icon through the PlayStation 1 days, when the game made its day, became a PlayStation, was basically a PlayStation exclusive when it first came out, considering the fact that PlayStation 1, the guys who made the game, Naughty Dog, were essentially PlayStation people, even though they weren't hired by PlayStation at the time. They were considered an indie company. They were just like an independent indie company at the time, so of course they were sort of new in the gaming industry, because obviously there was a lot of game companies that were starting to be born with the help of Sony and PlayStation, and also Nintendo, who were both responsible for some game companies' birth. And obviously Naughty Dog were somewhat newbies when they were releasing Crash Bandicoot, because of course they were new to the gaming industry, so not many people really knew the studio at this point. So they were sort of the newbies on PlayStation, and they came up with the idea with Universal Interactive Studios to bring Crash Bandicoot to the fray. But yes, as I was saying, Crash Bandicoot 1, the fact that Crash Bandicoot became probably the most popular video game icon or franchise with the help of Sony PlayStation, built this legend to becoming a phenomenon, to the point where we would see quite a few Crash Bandicoot games during the PlayStation 1. And then PlayStation 2, they did this sort of spin-off Crash Bandicoot game that I know one of my friends, Snowy, introduced me to that game not too long ago, and I didn't even know about it because I never played it, because I never knew it existed. And then they did like a Crash Bandicoot game for the original Xbox at one time. So yeah, apparently Crash Bandicoot did have a game on the original Xbox called Wrapped in Red or something like that, where they I think they were kind of experimenting with Crash Bandicoot on the Xbox platform for I guess for like one game, and then they didn't do another one until eventually they make the Crash Bandicoot came back with the remasters, and finally it got an Xbox. Well, the first three games finally got an Xbox release years later, which is crazy. It took them years to finally release those original three on Xbox, because those games never came to Xbox. They were pretty much PlayStation exclusive from the get-go. And also at the time when they were released, there wasn't even any Xbox that time. So obviously these days now, you basically have one company getting exclusives, the other company getting exclusives for their platform. But obviously they're trying to lower that down now, obviously, in recent times. But anyway, without further ado, we're going to take a look at the Crash Bandicoot trailers that they did. And the first trailer we're going to obviously look at is for the introduction of Crash, the very first Crash Bandicoot all the way back in 1996. Who would ever thought 1996 would be the year that Crash Bandicoot debuted into the gaming scene and became the icon that we know today? Who would ever thought that would happen? And yet, funny enough, we still haven't had a fifth game yet, a fifth Crash Bandicoot yet. But it'll be interesting to see if they'll ever. I mean, there's probably never going to be a Crash Bandicoot 5 because there were developments and then it got cancelled. But maybe someone else will pick it up. I don't know, but nevertheless, this is the Crash Bandicoot trailer from 1996 that started it all those years ago for the PlayStation 1. So take a look at this.
Bandicoot. Definition. A family of rabbit-sized rat-like marsupials indigenous to Australia, New Guinea and Tasmania. Crash Bandicoot. Definition. Heroic, hyperactive and hairy.
That's cool.
Join Crash as he whirls his way through the gruesome gauntlet of Bandicoot-hating, Bandicoot-smashing, Bandicoot-eating baddies. Next Generation says the designers have pulled every trick out of the bag, and Electronic Gaming Monthly calls Crash simply the hottest new product of the year. Crash Bandicoot from Sony Interactive, mate.
That's kind of funny. Then we shift focus to Crash Bandicoot 2. Which was, of course, the first year when we had Cortex Strikes Back, where obviously Dr. Cortex being and Cortex being the main villain of Crash Bandicoot, finally had some plans in place for Crash Bandicoot in this new game, and Crash Bandicoot 2 essentially builds upon that rivalry between Mr. N. Cortex and Crash Bandicoot, who have had a big rivalry for many years, and they continue that rivalry with Crash Bandicoot 2. So this is the trailer for the second Crash Bandicoot game that came out, I believe, when did that came out? I believe that, 1997. Yeah, so this was exactly 1 year after the release of Crash Bandicoot 1. They finally gave us the sequel. It's funny, isn't it? It's crazy to think because usually sequels for games don't usually these days, whenever there's a sequel, you would have to wait like 3-4 years, maybe even longer for a sequel. But yet back then they were able to get sequels. For some reason they were getting sequels out the following year, which is crazy that 1 year later they were able to get Crash Bandicoot 2 going. Crazy that it kind of makes me wonder what it would be like if the technology was good enough, in the current gaming technology was good enough to be able to allow games to come out 1 year later. But I feel like we're not going to see that anymore because most games need more development time than others, and also because they need longer development cycles, which is understandable why they're going to want the game. Yeah, they want certain games to be able to develop properly, and most games don't usually cook very well. So, yeah, it makes sense. But nevertheless, this is the trailer for Crash Bandicoot 2, which came out 1 year later, 1997, and you can imagine the hype when Crash Bandicoot 2 was about to hit the market.
Well. If it isn't Crash Bandicoot.
Wow. So there you go. That was the trailer for Crash Bandicoot 2 that came out in 1997, exactly 1 year following the successful launch of Crash Bandicoot 1. So that's what Crash Bandicoot 2 delivered. More enemies, bigger levels, much more Crash Bandicoot that I think a lot of people were asking for. And then we come to Crash Bandicoot 3, which is the third installment of this original series, where they called it Wrapped, of course, Crash Bandicoot Wrapped, marked as Crash Bandicoot 3. And, of course, this is where they introduced the whole concept of time travel into Crash Bandicoot with this game, because obviously this game had a whole time travel concept, and also they had the whole racing part of the game as well, where you have to race your way to save Crash Bandicoot's sister as well, because yeah, he has a sister, and obviously we got to see a little bit more of her in this game and in the previous game as well. So we're now going to see the trailer for Crash Bandicoot Wrapped that basically gives you a taste of what Crash Bandicoot 3, the original Crash Bandicoot 3, was promoted on PlayStation 1, and I believe this was 1 year later, 1990. Is it 1999? Does it say? Oh, 98. Okay, so 1 year later again, they gave us Crash Bandicoot 3. Crazy that. But there you go. This is the promotional trailer for Crash Bandicoot 3 that came out. So yeah, without further ado, this is oh, in fact, we might as well go for the minute-long one, because this is a trailer that gives you a little bit much of a bigger glimpse at Crash Bandicoot 3 from its original 1998 launch. So let's take a look. Yep, and you can go in water, ride a plane, deal with people with swords. There you go. So that is Crash Bandicoot 3. A taste of what Crash Bandicoot 3 was all about on PlayStation 1 and what they did to help promote Crash Bandicoot 3. Now, of course, with the exception of Crash Bandicoot 3, there was also Crash Team Racing that came to PlayStation 1. Yes, the first ever racing Crash Bandicoot game. Obviously, we had Crash Team Rumble recently as well, which was a more of like a Rumble style of Crash Bandicoot that got introduced, which was the last Crash Bandicoot game we've got. Well, the previous Crash Bandicoot game we got. We haven't had a new game since Crash Team Rumble, so many of us have been hoping for like a proper Crash Bandicoot game at some point. Hopefully, there will be one, but yeah, we're going to take a look at the Crash. We're going to take a look at Crash Team Racing, the PlayStation 1 trailer, so you can see how they promoted Crash Team Rumble on PlayStation 1. And I believe this was released in 1999, a whole year after the... and also, let's not forget, this was the first... Well, it wasn't the... they didn't introduce online, but they did introduce split screen into Crash Bandicoot. So this was the first split screen Crash Bandicoot game. So we finally got split screen, so you could like play with friends with split screen. Because obviously, Crash Team Rumble or Crash Team Racing wouldn't have the online functionality until the PlayStation 4 version of the game finally came around when they finally remastered it. So yeah, this is the original PlayStation 1 Crash Team Rumble trailer. So here we go. There we go. It's pretty cool, isn't it? Yeah. So that was the promotion for Crash Team Racing. Well, Crash Team Racing that they did for PlayStation 1, and that was pretty much the final PlayStation 1 Crash Bandicoot game until they eventually. Well, that was when Naughty Dog decided to move on. Decided to focus on different to build a new franchise in the form of The Last of Us, and they were responsible for the Last of Us series and the Uncharted series as they focused on building those franchises up for future use, because obviously they wanted to build up they wanted to build them as like a new franchise for the future. Of course, they were. So yeah, it was kind of like their way of setting us up really for future growth. So yeah, honestly though, I'm just like glad that we got to see many of those Crash Bandicoot games in their original form, and obviously today we've got remastered versions of all three of those games and Crash Team Racing, even though they haven't had proper PS5 updates yet. I like to be hopeful they will receive a PS5 update at some point, because it would be nice to have, but it would be nice to have a proper Crash Bandicoot game that benefits the PS5. I mean, the closest we'll get to that is Crash Team Rumble, because that's the only Crash Bandicoot we've seen on PS5. We haven't had like a proper Crash Bandicoot game since that release, and I like to be hopeful that there will be someone out there who will plan a Crash Bandicoot 5 that will get to celebrate a fifth Crash Bandicoot for its next birthday celebration, hopefully. But yeah, Crash Bandicoot will always be considered like a franchise that I enjoyed the most on the PlayStation 1 days, and I will never forget the day I ever first played Crash Bandicoot, and when the day they announced the remaster, I was very, very happy when they announced the Insane Trilogy, because I picked it up straight away because of how much I love Crash Bandicoot, and I I still got the copy of the game, and I think I can still play it I can play it through Game Pass now, because obviously Xbox has the game on Game Pass now, so I can play it there, and yeah, I've still got my PlayStation copy as well that I can play, which is helpful. But yeah. But yeah, Crash Team Racing. I still got my PS4 version of that. I mean, I would imagine it will come to Game Pass very soon. At some point, they're gonna make Crash Team Racing available for Game Pass, so that then we'll be able to revisit that game. But yeah, I might probably plan some sort of a revisit to Crash Bandicoot N. Trilogy and Crash Team Racing at some point, because I do kind of miss playing the remastered versions. But man, it would be nice to have the PlayStation 1 versions again, but obviously because they're more focused on remastering the past. Yeah, it's just, oh well. But anyway, let me know in the comment section if you picked up Crash Bandicoot when it first came out, and how do you feel about the remasters we've been getting, and also, do you want to see a Crash Bandicoot 5? Do you feel like it should happen? Let me know in the comment section below, and hopefully we'll have some more discussions about the future of Crash Bandicoot, and hopefully we'll see if Crash Bandicoot can finally have a future down the road. But thanks for watching, and I will catch you all in my PlayStation 2 reaction, where we'll react to... Well, we're going to probably... Yeah, I might possibly react to Spyro the Dragon, but yeah, I think I might not. I might just get to the PlayStation 2 stuff, so we can get through different games through all these different PlayStation eras that I enjoyed playing. So, see you.